What would you do if your child had so much aggression, anger, impulsivity, just general dysregulation that at one point they try to throw themselves out of a moving car? Out of a moving car, your child tries to launch themselves out, unbuckles the seatbelt, opens the door, tries to throw themselves out of the car. What would you do in that kind of a living nightmare? And this is not a story that I'm making up. This actually happened to one of our families. One of our families actually had a child that tried to throw himself out of a car because he was that dysregulated. He was that unable to control himself. This is the same child that was kicked out of, essentially asked to leave the school that he was in because he was getting into so many problems with the other children, and nothing worked. And this child was just a hot mess at home, at school, in every environment. And this incredible mom was just like, I don't know what to do. What would you do? Would you take them to the psychiatrist? Would you put them on medications? This mom got so desperate that despite every fiber of her being not wanting to put her child on medication, ultimately she went and found this uber expensive top psychiatrist who did all this fancy genetic testing, put him on medications. And you know what happened? He became fully psychotic. He actually grabbed a knife and started chasing after his mom with a knife, trying to harm her. What would you do then? Essentially, the only other option they had was to hospitalize him. And this mom is like, there's no way we're doing that. I would rather harm myself than put my child in a psychiatric hospital. But can you imagine what that kind of a scenario is like? And chances are there's some of you out there that are dealing with or have dealt with something like this. And there's one thing that I want you to realize, that children that have these kinds of issues, we think that it's here. We think it's behavioral. We think it's psychological. We think it's a brain chemical issue. And what if I told you that's actually not the case? In the case of this little guy, we'll call him Tommy. We'll say he's 6. We're making all of this up to protect his identity. What if Tommy's real cause of his struggle, Tommy's mental illness, was actually not mental at all? And I'm willing to put money, a lot of money, that you would never be able to guess in terms of what Tommy's issue was. Because I actually struggled to figure out what it was. I couldn't figure out what it was. We spent a year working through things. We tested everything. I tried all my regular stuff. We tried our plant mixtures. We tried supplements. We tried vitamins. We tried all of these things. Nothing worked. And then that's when I started telling the mom, like, there has to be something either. We tested his gut. We did all of the regular holistic stuff, everything that was out there. You know what it turned out to be? Mold. And the part that was the big kick in the pants is we actually did urine testing for mold, which is that unusual in certain circles. We urine tested him for mold, and his mold levels were not even that high. But then I told the parents, like, it has to be this. It's the only thing that makes sense. So they actually brought an inspector who came and inspected their home. And sure enough, their home had so much mold that the inspector, to the mom, the inspector was like, you guys need to get the heck out of this house. This house is not safe to be in. We detoxed him. They got out of the house. Do you know what happened 3 weeks later? The same child that was kicked out of school, tried to hurt his mom, tried to hurt himself, actually started functioning normally. He started being able to regulate his own body. He started being able to regulate his own mind. And the funny thing is, and this is actually one of the things that Dr. Neil Nathan, one of the country's top mold experts, taught me, is that mycotoxins, the mold toxins, can actually dysregulate part of our brain that regulates emotion. So imagine being in a state where your emotions just fly off the cuff in the most extreme ways. And it's a physical cause that creates that. Tommy's story is really sad, but fortunately, because of what we were able to understand, has a really happy story, because now this same child is this brilliant kid that is reading voraciously and happy and balanced and able to regulate himself and being able to enjoy life. But imagine what would have happened if we had not found this mold. If the family had continued to live in the house with the mold, And the mom had put him on medications, and they tried some other medications, and basically they snowed him. And I've seen this in my residency when I was in training. We had this psychiatric or psychology clinic where the psychiatrist would come and help us basically put these kids on medications. And I would look at some of these kids, and they were just snowed. They were under so much pharmaceutical medication that you could go like that, and they were like, but that was the only option they had to control these children. And that is sad, because that ultimately deprives them of actually being able to live any kind of rich life, which is why I do what I do and why I created Holistic Minds. Because I want to share this information with you. I want you to be able to see all of these different causes that cause a child to suffer and fall apart, because these children are suffering. These children are suffering. This isn't anecdotal behaviors that they do because they want to be difficult. These children are sick. They're suffering. They don't know how to control themselves because their systems are going haywire. And Tommy is just one of hundreds of children that we've worked with and ultimately gotten better when we understood what was the root cause of their issue. And this is the mistake that we make in holistic medicine. We say everyone has a gut issue, everyone has a food issue, everyone has pandas, everyone has this. That's not the case at all. It varies from child to child, and some children have multiple things going on. Tommy's case was unique. It was mold, period. Other kids have thyroid issues, adrenal problems, gut issues, this, that, and they have a bunch of things together. And that's what I want to help you see. I want you to start being able to understand why your child may be suffering or why you may be suffering. Because there are things we can do once we understand what those things are that are causing us or our children to suffer. And that's what I want to share with you. Thanks for listening. This is Dr. K from Holistic Minds. Join me as we go on this journey where I share all this information with you, with experts and all of these brilliant people that are doing incredible work. And I want to help you bring it all together to see how you can help your child, or perhaps even yourself, live a more brilliant and happy and bright life. Thanks for listening.